We continue once more with Matthew's Gospel and the Sermon on the Mount. Moses on Mount Sinai brought the law of the Old Covenant to the people. Jesus on this mountain is bringing the law of the New Covenant. And it's not to abolish the law and the prophets, Jesus tells us, but to fulfill them, to complete them. And so this time we're looking at the Old Covenant's works of mercy and piety. And it's in the, excusez-moi. And so we see these appear in the book of Tobit. Here Tobit's saying, prayer with fasting and alms, with right conduct, are better than riches with iniquity. Better to practice almsgiving than to hoard gold. Almsgiving saves from death and purges every kind of sin. Those who give alms have their fill of days. Those who commit sin and do evil bring harm to themselves. And so their prayer, fasting, and almsgiving together, as Jesus has also put them in this gospel text. And so the main thing that Jesus is getting at is that our prayer, our fasting, and our almsgiving, as is very clear from that gospel, easy for all of us to understand, is that we shouldn't be doing it for the sake of others, so that others can see and so give us the praise. It's what is the intention behind it? Because he tells us, when you fast, when you pray, when you give alms, not if, but when. And so he expects us to be doing it. But the important question is why? With the scribes and the Pharisees, the hypocrites, why were they doing it? So that people could see how holy they were. What righteous people. And so they missed the point and they missed out on their reward. It's not to be seen by others. It is to be seen by God, who sees the heart, who sees the intention. And each of these is a sign of penance and conversion. They are aids to conversion and signs of conversion. You know, and we can get into perhaps the mindset that, well, that's all something that happens inside, and therefore, you know, it shouldn't be anything that we experience on the outside. But actually, not so. It's in the gospel. So, but just here's a catechism again. Good book. Buy it if you can. It's on the internet, so you can see it there as well. But what does the catechism say about interior penance? This is number 1430. Jesus' call to conversion and penance, like that of the prophets before him, does not aim first at outward works, sackcloth and ashes. That's what they used to do when they converted, when they were doing penance, when they wanted to show God that they were sorry for anything. Fasting and mortification, these are other things. But at the conversion of the heart, interior conversion. So it does not aim first at outward conversion, but interior conversion, conversion of the heart. Without this, such penances remain sterile and false. Such penances, it means we still can do and should do such penances. However, interior conversion, what goes on in the heart, urges expression, invisible signs, gestures, and works of penance. What happens in here should come out here, physically. Because we are not just spiritual beings, we're spiritual and physical beings. So what goes on in our hearts should manifest in our actions. Why should they manifest in our, why should they manifest in our actions? Not so much as a purpose, but who should be seeing it is God, not men. Except for Jesus actually gives us an exception when these actions should be seen by men. Again in the gospel. Now, I think it's Matthew. Yes, we just heard it recently. I think last week or the week before. And Jesus tells us, You are the light of the world, he says. A city built on a hilltop cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and puts it under the tub. They put it on the lampstand where it shines for everyone in the house. In the same way, your light must shine in the sight of men, so that, seeing your good works, they may give the praise to whom? With the hypocrites, they wanted the praise for themselves. For us as Christians, the new law is not for us to point at ourselves, but always to point to the Lord, so that they may give praise to your Father in heaven. All our actions, all our works should be directed to praise of God, our Father in heaven. And so these works of conversion, their conversion of prayer, that is a personal conversion, prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. So we've got prayer, that's conversion to God, where I turn away from myself and giving all myself, using my time just myself, but I turn back to the Lord, and I give time in prayer to the Lord. Prayer, fasting, denying myself, and how we want to satisfy ourselves all the time. And so this fasting is a conversion of body, where I'm using my body now not to glorify and to satisfy myself, but to satisfy the Lord. So I'm turning away from these self-satisfaction, giving up those things to turn back to God. Prayer, fasting, almsgiving. Again, conversion of myself, turning away from my own selfishness and turning towards my neighbor who is in need. Interesting, almsgiving. We heard in Tobit there earlier on how important the Old Testament saw almsgiving, and same in the New Testament. I found this very interesting when I was reading it. What's it say about almsgiving? Where is it? Patience. Here we go. It's speaking about the works of mercy. This is Catechism 2447. Among these, all of these, he said, the Catechism says, works of mercy, giving alms to the poor is one of the chief witnesses to fraternal charity. It is also a work of justice, pleasing to God. So, we are encouraged to continue those old covenant works of piety, prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. But Jesus here is purifying it. For the Christian, you and I, it is not about me. It is about Him, the Lord, and our neighbors. And so we use these practices for conversion, to change our hearts back to the Lord, back to our neighbor.